The time has come, folks. The Warworld Revolution is now upon us. But who will win? The forces of truth and justice, or the evil forces of Mongul's Warworld? Action Comics, issue number 1042, was a damn good Superman story, and Philip Kennedy Johnson keeps dropping the awesomeness for us readers. The fight for Warworld finally takes a turn as the revolution truly begins. From the way the opening of the book ties into the conflict with Mongul and Warworld, to the action-packed middle that does a lot of great character work, to the ending that ties it all up. 'Twas an exciting read. The issue has a really good bit of narrative balance that the issues prior have been missing, and because of that, it vastly improves the overall storytelling. Not to say that the previous issues are bad, but you can tell that we're reaching a new section to the overall Warworld Saga story. Also, Johnson does an amazing job with Superman. He gives him a speech about the way Mongul looks at the people of Warworld and how wrong it is. It's just pure Superman being put on display, and I love it. For the first act of Warworld Saga, Superman has been taken lower than we've ever seen him before, stripped of his powers and placed into the arena and forced to fight the very same people that he's been battling to save. It's been amazing to watch him evolve into a new kind of hero, the Unbloodied Sword, the face of the Warworld Resistance. But with Mongul and his elites coming for them, and with OMAC having switched sides to, supposedly get the resurrection of Leah, the tone carries this almost hopelessness and this bleakness to it. However, if anyone counted Superman out of the game, well, you messed up, because this issue is probably the finest moment of Superman's battle over the course of the run. Not to mention that the fight scenes themselves have some of the most stunning visuals to date. Moreover, we also finally get a look on what's been happening back on Earth regarding the Genesis fragment, and their energy plays an integral role within the story, thus paying off a plot line from earlier. Also bringing back characters like Steel into the mix, like, John Henry Irons. It's great stuff. And if there's anyone who can figure out space tech within a Superman book, then it's probably Steel. When it comes to the book's art, it's utterly fantastic. The issue's art by Riccardo Federici is some of the most beautiful work that I've seen in Action Comics. Both he and the color artist Lee Luffridge team up to make a creative team that's pretty much unbeatable. The pencils and the colors are beautiful, from the opening pages with John, Lois, and Thal Law, to the action scenes across Warworld. I would say that the art is best described as lush, and Luffridge uses the color to really separate the alien planet's atmosphere from that of Earth, and the art really sets this book aside from others just as much as his art sets it aside from a Superman adventure that's set on Earth and based in Metropolis. There's also a good deal of double-page spreads throughout the issue, and though typically I consider those kind of things annoying at times, here it's a treat, because the book definitely deserves them, for this is a big scope battle of a tale, almost akin to Warworld Hulk, or some of the sci-fi epic that, Hulk is related to. Overall, this is generally a very well-balanced issue on all fronts, and it personates with the core of Superman as a character. Plus it turns up the heat within the Warworld Saga. It was such a masterpiece of art and storytelling that I'm more amped up than ever before for the next issue. Action Comics issue number 1042 gets a sexy 9 out of 10. Our story picks up at the Fortress of Solitude, where the Phalosian Fowla is recovering within a healing tank, because the last time we saw her, Mongul threatened to wipe out the Phalosians on Warworld, unless Fowla went to Earth and destroyed the House of El. However, Superman and Lois were able to convince her that they could free the slaves together, and so they told her to trust herself into making the right choice, which, led her to reject Mongul. But because Mongul's an asshole, he activated a device that was sent with her, called the Orphan Box. The box then proceeded to hit her with a massive surge of Genesis energy, and though Superman was able to destroy the Orphan Box in the process, it left Fowla severely injured and comatose, thereby kickstarting Superman's mission to Warworld. Now, with Lois keeping Fowla company while writing a report on the Phalosians, that's when Lois hears a very familiar voice, which for a split second, she thinks it's Clark, but finds it to be Jonathan. Now, upon seeing the comatose Fowla, Jonathan regrets about the way he acted towards her, but Lois assures him that what he did was pretty normal. It didn't make you less of a person. You thought she was with Mongul, which, you were correct. And because of Fowla, it's why your dad isn't here. It's why Clark's away. Suddenly, Fowla starts to have violent convulsions as she begins glowing blue. Now, Keelix explains that for days, the patient has been experiencing sudden power flare-ups via seizures. And according to Calyx's diagnosis, because the patient's initial injury was caused by an overexposure from Genesis energy, her symptoms suggest that she may be undergoing withdrawals from the energy. Therefore, in order to end the seizures, they need to provide her with some limited exposure of Genesis. Now, apparently after the orphan box was destroyed, Superman hid the Genesis fragment from further usage. However, Lois, being the ace reporter that she is, has a pretty good idea on where it is. Thus, this picks us up at Warworld, with Superman leading Midnighter's rebellion against the squad of Warzone berserkers that have been sent to kill the Phalosians who are loyal to Superman. And sadly, it seems as if OMAC is on the same team as the Warzones, which is made evidently clear as Superman barely dodges one of her blasts in the process. But not only that, but it's shown that OMAC and the Warzones are under the command of the Teacher, one of Mongul's major generals. Now, with both Midnighter and Steel shocked by OMAC's betrayal, Superman begins to plead, whilst telling them that Mongul will never give them what he promised. He will never bring back Lightray. He's basically using you. He's using your desperation and your fear of losing someone that you care about to his advantage. But the Teacher cuts their conversation short, as he orders OMAC to break Superman, while the rest of the authority are his to smack around, which immediately makes Midnighter scoff, remarking that although the Teacher talks a big game, he can still see the scars from Manchester Black's beatdown on his face, back during the authority's initial confrontation with the Warzones within the arena. However, the Teacher says that he's enjoyed his time with the Illusionist, and he compliments Manchester Black's extraordinary brain. But unfortunately, according to the Teacher, he lacks vision. However, in an unconstrained mind, the Teacher has found that Manchester Black's illusionary horrors become very real. Applying with the Teacher has become much more dangerous by harnessing Manchester Black's psychic powers, as he from there summons a terrifying monster. Meanwhile, OMAC begins squaring off against Superman. Now, Superman has finally had enough of OMAC's bullshit, as he takes the fight to them via a more direct approach, directly in their face. Using his newly recovered powers from the Genesis energy, Superman is able to stand toe-to-toe with his former ally. Now it's here where he asks OMAC on whether we do what's right only when we're at our best. And, do we only do what's right when we're stronger than our enemies? Like, is that what it takes to be a hero? Fighting a fight where the odds favor you times 3,000? Well, the answer is no, because what we do as heroes comes with challenges. There will always be obstacles, but should those obstacles change our character, or should we prove that those obstacles are irrelevant? Basically, Superman is giving OMAC a pep talk. Meanwhile, Krillix Ux tries to get Ufa and Osla to run and find a place to hide, but they get stopped in the process by the Teacher, who lets the Phalosian slaves know that there's nowhere to hide, because their time is up, and because of this they should be grateful for the time Mongul has given them, because if it were up to the Teacher, he would have had them executed in the arena a long time ago. But that's when Midnighter basically calls the Teacher a bitch, along with mentioning that he talks way too much. And while the Teacher gets distracted from all this shit talk, Krillix Ux lets Superman know that the Teacher is an arrogant fool, but whether he knows it or not, dude's given the rebels a way to win, elaborating that the Teacher has made a mistake of bringing with him an orphan box, the device where all the Teacher's powers directly comes from, which he uses in order to control the unmade and open the doorways to anywhere on the world. Therefore, if Superman can get his hands on the orphan box, everything changes, and the slaves will have a fighting chance, thereby making this a war that they can actually win. But that's when OMAC hits Superman with another blast, causing him to fall back. Yet, however, despite that his powers are beginning to fade, Superman is able to overpower OMAC long enough to be able to rip one of the suit's arms off whilst damaging the suit's exoframe. And from there, Superman tells OMAC to stay down. And despite the fact that OMAC betrayed Superman and the Authority, despite all of that, Superman still forgives them, letting OMAC know that she'll see Laya again, but she doesn't need to sell her soul in order to do so. Now this here, folks, this is where the Authority sees the arrival of he who holds all chains, the baddest of mofos, Mongul. And he makes it very clear that OMAC's soul has already been sold to the devil. And not only that, but he tells Superman that Chitalia was right, and that it's best to kill Superman once and for all. Therefore, enough stalling. It's time to show the people who the real badass is. And thus with Superman and Mongul squaring off, the Tyrant lets the Man of Steel know that this battle will end the same way as it did before. But this time Mongul will harvest Superman's bones. Because according to Mongul, Superman has learned nothing, since he is still willing to surround himself with lesser beings. However, Superman, using every ounce of his strength still left in his body, eventually takes the fight to Mongul, whilst letting the Tyrant know that rather he, Mongul himself, doesn't understand a damn thing, because these lesser beings are much stronger than Mongul, and they are much stronger than Superman will ever be. For these badass people, they have been through trials that should have killed every single one of them, especially them being without power gems, heat vision, etc. But they didn't die. They survived, because they never gave up, especially not on each other. Because check it, Mongul, caring for others isn't a weakness. Instead, underestimating others is actually real weakness, which is why our revolution will win. And that's when Superman manages to break away from Mongul. And after running across the battlefield and scaling across the humongous monster, Superman takes the teacher's orphan box right from underneath him. And without a passing second, Superman activates the device, disappearing in a bright blue swirl of energy, which blinds Mongul and the war zones in the process. Picking back up on Earth, 19 miles outside Metropolis, we have Lois Lane, banging on the gates of an abandoned hangar warehouse. Now Lois makes it clear through the intercom that she knows that the Genesis fragment is inside. So yeah, let's just skip the part where you let me in. And voila, the gates begin to open. Once Lois steps in the Steelworks headquarters, the laboratory of John Henry Irons, aka the uncle of Natasha Irons, Lois and John, aka Steel, say their hellos. Now John's been experimenting with the Genesis fragment ever since Superman left for Warworld. And so far he's determined that all the samples that he's taken from the Genesis fragment appear to be linked, as each sample reacts to anything he does to any other. But also the Genesis fragment will sometimes preemptively respond before he has done anything. Thereby, he's suspecting that the energy may actually be sentient. Afterwards, once Lois lets Steel know about the situation regarding foul law, this is when a burst of energy erupts from the main fragment, exerting a bright blue glow that blinds them. But this is where they begin to hear the voice of Clark Kent, coming from within. And so John, he suspects that whatever the fragment is reacting to, whatever this is, it's happening someplace else. And wherever said place it's happening at, some big stuff is going down. And that, folks, was the end of Action Comics, issue number 1042. And thank you guys for checking out my video, as it truly means the world to me. And as always, I'm your majestic sayer over at SuperCliff, and if you guys are new to the channel, then do me a solid by smashing that like and subscribe button, and also hit the notification bell so that you'll never miss out on an upload, and so that you'll always be kept up to date with your favorite top tier comics happening in the comic book world. Now tell me, what are your thoughts and opinions on this issue? Are you guys excited for Action Comics 1043? Let me know down in the comment section below. And until the next video, peace. Giggity goo.